Voice AI assistants are gaining popularity very quickly, and over the last couple of days I've been asked multiple times if it's possible to create some good multilingual voice assistants, and if yes, how it's possible to optimize them. The quick answer to this question is yes, it's definitely possible to create multilingual voice assistants in many different languages. As of right now, probably most major languages are supported, and it's even possible to create them in different accents of those languages, which is actually quite amazing. However, until a couple of days ago, the performance of those multilingual voice AI assistants wasn't really good. They just didn't perform very well, they didn't sound very good. However, on Monday, GPT-4o was released, and that was a huge game changer to multilingual voice assistants, because from my experience it optimized them a lot. They got a lot better, sound much more natural, much better in general, and this is why I'm making this video now. So in this video I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of creating a really good multilingual voice assistant, and I'm going to show you exactly how to optimize it inside and outside of Vapi. So let's jump into Vapi, and here we are going to start by simply creating a new assistant. I'm going to choose Ava, the customer support assistant. We're going to create Ava. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to translate this prompt into whatever language we would like to use. For this video I'm going to use German because I speak German, so it's quite easy for me to do this and optimize this assistant, but you can use many other languages that I'm going to show you in a second. So first I've simply translated everything with ChatGPT. Now our assistant prompt is in German. Next we're going to choose the model. There are many different options, however I definitely prefer GPT-4o. However, one thing to consider with multilingual assistants is latency, and I'm going to talk about this a lot in this video. So we see for GPT 3.5 latency is under a minute, under a second, which is quite good. If we use 4o, then it's like 200 milliseconds slower, but from my experience it's definitely worth it because 4o just performs a lot better. Next I'm going to reduce temperature a bit because it can help with latency. I'm going to activate this setting, and now we're done in the model tab. Next we need to choose the transcriber. This is a very important step. We have two options. We have DeepGram or Transcriber. And with DeepGram we can choose the model, which I'm going to choose Nova 2, but you can choose all these other ones that have been optimized for different use cases. I always choose Nova 2, and here we can choose the language. So here you can see many different languages are available. I'm going to choose German, but you can scroll through this and there's many different languages available, even different accents. So for English, for example, we have US, Australian, British, New Zealand, Indian. For French we have normal French and Canadian French. And for German, we even have the Switzerland German, which is also nice. Okay, I'm going to choose German for now. One more thing, you could also use Transcriber. Transcriber has more languages, like many languages, probably more than the other one, but Transcriber has much more latency. So here now we have 1550 milliseconds latency. With DeepGram it's much lower, so I always use DeepGram. Next we're going to take a look at the voice tab, which is probably the most important and also the most tricky one for multilingual assistants. Vapi currently supports multilingual assistants with 11 Labs voices and with Azure voices. So we're going to start with Azure. Here we can see that immediately by choosing Azure we've got very good latency. So Azure voices are great for latency. Here we can set different sounds. I like the office background sound. Speed, I think they're a bit slow, so I usually increase speed a little bit. Here we can enable or deactivate filler injection, which means that the model says things like does little breaks and says like in English. So for me in English it always says like if I activate this. Also back channeling, meaning that it says yeah, okay. I like both settings. However, they can be a bit tricky for multilingual voices, because for my German ones, this hasn't been very good most of the time. This has been really good, so I'll deactivate this. I'll leave this active. I suggest just try it out, whatever language you're planning on using, and then if it's not too good, then just deactivate it. Okay, Azure voices have a big disadvantage, and it's that they sound very robotic. So I've tried lots of Azure voices in German, and they all sounded quite robotic, not natural at all. So I really am not a big fan of Azure voices. However, I'm still going to show you how you can use them in case you want to try them for your language. Maybe they're better in some other languages, but for German they haven't been really good. So in voice library we can choose Azure, and here you'll see that we have many different voices. So Azure really supports many different languages and voices. And now what we can do is, if we want to do French, for example, we're simply going to search on the website and then enter FR, and here we can see all our French voices. FRBE probably means French Belgium, so it's Belgium accent. CA is probably the Canadian accent, and those ones are the normal French ones. So if you want to use French, then just choose one here. Also, if you want to use German, then just go through it, look for the German ones. Again, here we have the Switzerland accent, here we have the Austrian accent. So yeah, just play with it a little bit. I have tried it a lot. I've tried most of them. They all sounded very robotic, so I'm not going to try this here. And we are going to continue with 11 laps. So first we're going to make those settings right here. Background sound office, that's really good. Same settings as before, I've already explained those. Now for multilingual use in 11 labs, we have to use the multilingual model, obviously. However, this adds lots of latency. So compared to the turbo model for English, it adds like half a second or even a bit more. That's not so good. Yeah, I have talked to the 11 labs support and I've asked whether a new multilingual model is going to appear soon that's going to perform better and that's going to have less latency. They said yes, but they couldn't tell me more information about it, which I totally understand. But it means that in the future it's definitely going to get better. Okay, for 11 labs, this is also an important setting because this allows you to optimize streaming latency. So it's explained here. I'll put the link in the description. You can read through it. It basically says that if you set it to 1, 2, or 3, then it's just going to improve latency. If you set it to 4, it's going to give you the maximum latency optimizations, but it can it has a negative effect on the voice, so it can mispronounce numbers and dates, and I rather don't want that. So when I use 11 labs, I usually put this to 3 because it still optimizes latency a lot, which is important since latency is a bit high. Yes. In the Vapi UI, this is a bit, it's not done very well because for lower settings it says less latency and for higher settings it says more latency. However, this is actually not correct because here it says that higher settings mean max latency optimization and therefore least latency. Yeah, so this is something to keep in mind. Okay, and now most important part, what voice do we actually choose here? There's 2 different ways to do this. First, you can go in 11 labs into the voice library, and in here you can choose a language. I've already chosen German, and then here you can see many different voices, and you can try them out and choose one. Hopefully you'll find a very good one, and then you can use it in Vapi. For this, you have to go to your profile, and then API key. Just select your API key and then put it in provider APIs 11 labs, enter it here, submit, and you have to wait a minute maybe so it syncs your voice library, and then you can use your 11 labs voice in your multilingual assistant. You can also clone your own voice with 11 labs, which I have already tried. It worked very well, so that's also a cool option here. Yeah, the second way to do it is to simply use any 11 Labs voices, like any of the standard voices or like generally whatever voice you want to use. And what I like to use is Sarah, because Sarah and all the other voices as well, if you use the multilingual model, which we're already using, then those voices can speak any language. Yeah, so you can use Sarah or just look for any voice that you prefer, and then you have your multilingual assistant. There are some things to notice though, so if you use multilingual voices, sometimes they have a bit of an English accent. So in my case, the German assistant, sometimes, not very often, but sometimes there are words that are German, but they're pronounced in an English way, like an English person speaking German would pronounce them. So that's not too good, but doesn't happen very often, so it's still quite good. Alright, so this is how you can optimize the assistant for different languages. Try it out in whatever language you want to try it in. And one more thing, those assistants can also be optimized outside of Vapi, because they're probably going to be used over the phone, so there's also a couple of things to consider here. Vapi currently supports phone numbers from Twilio and from Vonage. So let's start with Twilio. Here we can see in Twilio that we can buy a number. I've already bought some German numbers. And we can choose US or Ireland. This means that if under the US tab I buy a German number, then the call is still going to be routed via the US, which is not perfect for latency. So if you're in Europe, it definitely makes sense to buy the number under the Ireland tab. It's also better for GDPR reasons. So yeah, wherever you are in the world and whatever language you want to use, maybe check which one is closer to you and then use that one. Also, I've heard from a couple of community members that Vonage is very good. So they've experienced less latency with Vonage than with Twilio. Probably because Vonage uses advanced routing that Vapi currently doesn't do the same way. So yeah, Vonage is probably pretty good. I haven't tried it myself, but I'm definitely going to try it in the future. So now I have shown you how to create and optimize multilingual voice assistants, and now I'm going to give you a quick demo for a German-speaking voice assistant that I've created for my agency. The settings are exactly the same ones that I've just shown you. However, for this one I optimized the prompt so that it actually makes sense other than the Ava one, the demo example. So those of you who speak German, it's going to be quite interesting for you, so definitely make sure to listen to this demo. The other ones who don't speak German, feel free to skip this part of the video. Just log into Vapi and create your own assistant in your language and see how good it works.
Hey, hier ist Mia, die KI-Assistentin von Flowficiency. Bist du bereit, die Zukunft zu erleben?
Hallo Mia, ja, ich bin bereit.
Super. Wie lautet dein Name?
Ich bin der Maxi.
Hi Maxi, wo arbeitest du und was ist deine genaue Aufgabe dort?
Ich bin selbstständig und ich biete meinen Kunden IT-Automatisierungen an.
Aha. Klingt spannend, Maxi. Welche Schwierigkeiten hast du aktuell in deinem Geschäftsalltag?
Es ist sehr viel los und ich kriege immer sehr viele Anrufe und es ist manchmal schwer, die alle zu beantworten und hinterherzukommen.
Das klingt stressig, Maxi. Stell dir vor, du hättest einen KI-Sprachassistenten, der Anrufe für dich beantwortet, Termine bucht und wichtige Infos weitergibt. Würde das dir helfen?
Das klingt interessant, ja, auf jeden Fall.
Das freut mich zu hören, Maxi. Möchtest du einen Beratungstermin vereinbaren, um mehr zu erfahren?
Auf jeden Fall, sehr gerne.
Super. Ich werde einen Termin für dich vereinbaren. Welcher Tag und welche Uhrzeit passen dir am besten?
Geht's am Freitag um 10 Uhr?
Perfekt, Freitag um 10 Uhr ist notiert. Ich freue mich darauf, dich dann zu unterstützen, Maxi.
Ja, perfekt. Ich bin gespannt. Dankeschön.
Gern geschehen, Maxi. Bis Freitag.
Bis dann. Tschüss. Okay, that was the demo. I think it's quite good. It worked quite well in German. One word was pronounced with a bit of an English accent, but I don't think this is too problematic for now. Latency was quite alright. Like in English it's still a bit better, but I think it was perfectly fine actually. So if you have any questions, then feel free to write a comment. I'll definitely answer your comment. So I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next video.